don't mess with America.
A couple of months ago, we introduced you to Dr. Warren Farrell, who says America is in the throes of a boy crisis. And as we reach Father's Day, it's worth revisiting the issue, especially since Dr. Farrell is here in the flesh in D.C., and he's up late with me on the Final Five. Last time I saw you was through the big monitor, and now I get you here in person.
You're much better in person.
I don't know how to take that. No, let's talk about this. Father's Day is upon us. You've been making the rounds. You've been going around the country. First of all, let's tell people. You said America's in a boy crisis, and I think for people who didn't see you last time, what is a boy crisis?
Boys are doing worse in every single academic area, not only in the United States, but all over the developed world. They're doing worse in terms of emotional intelligence, worse in terms of committing suicide, going into depression. It used to be depression was a girl's thing. Now it's more with boys. They are doing much worse in terms of physical health. They're having trouble with sperm counts. Their IQs are going down. It is in 70 different areas. Boys are having problems, but it's mostly boys that do not have significant amount of father involvement.
There are people who look at a lot of the situations you mentioned and say this is a matter of political correctness, that boys are being softened these days, but it's more than that. It
is more than that. Boys have opportunities today that they've never had throughout history. Historically speaking, boys had to prepare for war. They had to be prepared for being a sole breadwinner. Today, they have more opportunities, more flexibility. But if they don't have any guidance by the culture as to what to be, they have a purpose void. And then if they have a purpose void and a dad void, they have nowhere to go. They become rudderless. Dads are very good at enforcing boundaries, which creates postponed gratification, which helps boys achieve. Without that and without a role model, a very high percentage of boys fall significantly behind.
I'm lucky to have had my father with me for every step of my life. I still do to this day. I know a lot of people who didn't. They turn out just fine. But that said, when you look at the grand scheme of things, and you mentioned the word role model.
Yes.
What makes a good role model? Is there a good role model in lieu of a father figure?
Well, first of all, a good role model is a biological dad, because the biological dad, the boy as he's growing up, starts wondering who he is. And as he searches for identity, he's half his dad and half his mom. And if he hears bad things about his dad or that type of thing, he starts worrying, am I bad like that? Am I narcissistic? Am I a liar? Or that type of thing. Now, if you can't have a father as a role model biologically, get your son or son involved with the Cub Scouts, the Boy Scouts. Get them involved with a faith-based community. Make sure you choose your faith-based leader very carefully, and that he encourages boys of your son's age to talk with each other. Boys who are in trouble are boys who keep their feelings to themselves and repress who they are.
You've been making the rounds, going around the country and talking to local leaders. I know that's one of the reasons you're here in D.C.
Yes.
Before we go, what are you doing? What's the conversation that you think that you have to have and that communities have to have with elected leaders, with other pillars of the community?
First, they need to understand that there is a boy crisis, and that boy crisis is all over the world. And that when boys are in crisis mode, when they don't have a lot of father involvement, they're far more likely to join ISIS. So almost all of your ISIS recruits.
And that's a big jump there.
Yes. So obviously most boys who don't have fathers don't join ISIS. But of your ISIS recruits, almost all of them have in common a lack of father involvement, not only the boys, but also the girls. Of your school shooters, the great majority of them have a lack of father involvement. Of your mass shooters, the great majority of them have a lack of father involvement. And so Father's Day is really a day to say, we need to have fathers become the new warrior, the new person to be involved, overcoming the barriers. If you're having trouble with connecting with your son, fight it out, work it out, communicate it out.
Last question before we go. You know, there are a lot of people watching, and there may be single mothers out there.
Yes.
And they say, my son is growing up, and a lot of these sons are pillars of the community.
Yes.
President Obama, you can look at him as an example. So it's not an all-encompassing problem, but it's something we should investigate, is what I'm gathering from you.
Yes, the boys that are having significant problems, there's about 9 or 10 causes, but this is by far fatherlessness, and minimal father involvement is the most significant cause. One of the things that President Obama's mother did differently than many times happens is she constantly told positive stories about President Obama's father. And that's so one of the things that you can do for your child is to tell positive stories about the father, so the boy ends up feeling, I am inherently a worthwhile person.
The book is called The Boy Crisis. Dr. Warren Farrell, good to see you again.
Very
good to
nice
see you in the
meet
flesh,
you.
like I said,
Yes,
as opposed to the last time.
Right.
All right, we are back after this with more on the Final Five.